Can this can really provide you with the seeds you need to create a survival garden to feed your family? Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm Jonathan, and we are the Provident Preppers. Having a supply of seeds on hand is critically important if you want to be able to grow a survival garden. One way to accomplish that is to buy a can of seeds like this and tuck it away for future use.
The question we want to answer is, are these seeds really going to be viable when we need them most? We have taken on the challenge.
In this video, we are going to open the can of seeds and do some evaluation, and then we're going to get busy planting. We were digging around our storage room and found this can of seeds that we had put there in 2012. So we decided to take a canned garden seed challenge. So here's how the challenge goes. We'll use this as a survival garden. We won't be doing any tilling because in a crisis situation we probably wouldn't have a tiller or the fuel to run it. Again, these are 8-year-old seeds. They've been stored in a fairly good environment. We hope they're still viable. So off we go.
You always wonder exactly what you're going to find inside one of these number 10 cans. And quite frankly, we were very pleasantly surprised. These are all non-hybrid seeds, they're good quality, and most of them are packaged with planting directions on them.
Of course, as an engineer, the first thing I had to do was create a spreadsheet. Doesn't get much better than that. In the spreadsheet, you can see the crop, the variety, how many grams of seeds in that package, how many feet of row that should do, and then the planting dates. And I was able to sort those by planting dates so we knew which ones to get started with.
On the right, you can see the actual label of the can. The intent of the spreadsheet is ultimately to be able to track the amount of food that we can produce from this seed can. The Grandma's Country Food seed can that we had purchased retailed for $44. Now, as preppers, we're always looking for great deals, and we actually were able to pick up 2 of these for $10 each. It was a killer deal because we have our own personal seed vault that we use with all of our specialized seeds, but we thought it would be a great backup to have one of these cans. So, of course, we bought 2. The other day, I was at the market and I saw this can of Augustin Farm vegetable garden seeds. It's different in that it sells for $35 and it has only 13 varieties of seeds versus the 20, but they're still non-hybrid seeds. It claims that it will produce 2,300 pounds of produce. Now that's for an expert gardener. I don't believe that a novice gardener is going to be able to produce that much. Jonathan and I evaluated the seeds that were in the can. Now this is our total personal preference. This could be completely fine for somebody else, but this is what we personally would like to see differently. Vegetables that we thought were missing included kale, Swiss chard, and pole beans. The can contained bush beans, which would be great if you had nothing for them to climb up. But as you can see in this photo, we are growing the 3 sisters, which is where you grow corn, pole beans, and squash together. The 3 of these work really well together because the pole beans will provide nitrogen in that soil to feed the corn, and the squash acts as a living mulch to help retain the moisture in the soil. However, you can't use bush beans when you do that because they will be shaded out. You need the pole beans, which will climb up those corn stalks. That's my reasoning behind that. I also would have included a package of cherry tomatoes instead of 3 packages of regular tomatoes because cherry tomatoes will produce very quickly and they're just really good to go and kind of graze on versus waiting for those whole tomatoes to develop. I would have liked to have seen hot peppers in this. Not that I like a lot of heat in my food. When you are just cooking with the basics, a few hot peppers can add a wonderful flavor to your food. And some culinary herbs for exactly the same reason. And we would have added more onions, more beets, and more carrots. We plant plenty of root crops. And the reason why is because they are easy to grow. The harvest is extended. You can plant them in the spring, harvest them through the summer. Sometimes we have stored those same spring carrots clear through till the next spring. They are protected in the ground and not quite as vulnerable to some of the weather conditions. However, they're very vulnerable to gophers. We are able to eat our root crops all winter long. We place those bags on the rows of carrots and beets to provide them insulation, and then we harvest them clear through the entire winter. And even after you pull them out of the ground, they have a long storage life. These carrots were harvested on March 7th of this year, and they are still incredibly sweet. We also felt that there were too many seeds of one variety. There were 3 packages of tomato seeds, which would equal about 330 plants. If each of those tomato plants averages 8 pounds per plant, then you're looking at 2,600 pounds of tomatoes. That is more tomatoes than I could possibly use or can. I think it would have been nice to have a different vegetable in there instead of 3 things of tomatoes. I would have liked 1 package of regular tomatoes and 1 package of cherry tomatoes. There were 2 packages of peas, which can equal an 80-foot row. Again, that's a lot of peas. You can dry peas, you can can peas, you can eat them fresh. That's still just a lot of peas. I would have preferred 1 package of peas and another package of a different vegetable. Now, all of the seeds in the can are non-hybrid, which is incredibly important because they are sustainable. You can collect the seeds from the plants every year, and that next generation of plants will be true to the parent. One time I had saved some pumpkin seeds and I didn't realize they were hybrid. So when I planted them the next year, instead of pumpkins, I got gourds. Now, sometimes it's not going to matter because if it's just a different kind of tomato, you can eat it. But a gourd is not anywhere near edible as compared to a pumpkin. So you live and learn. But non-hybrid or heirloom seeds are critical when you're talking about a sustainable garden. It also saves money because you don't have to buy new seeds every year.
The recommendations for storing seeds long-term include having them in a cool, dry location. The seeds in our can were said to have a shelf life of 4 years at 65 to 70 degrees, and each 5 to 6 degree drop in temperature doubles that storage life. Our storage room runs an average of about 50 degrees year-round.
And they recommend that you store them in the refrigerator or freezer. Now, there is no way I'm going to keep a number 10 can in my refrigerator or freezer. I just don't have that kind of space. But I think you can achieve great success with your seeds if you just store them in a cool, dry location. The seeds in this can were packaged for 2012, which makes them about 8 years old. The photo of the seeds on this slide are the new seeds that I bought this year for our personal seed bank. Before I ever got started planting, I took a look at our local weather outlook, and the temperatures looked great to start our planting.
We'd considered starting fresh with a new garden plot, considering this is an emergency garden that we were planting. But after trying to dig that soil that hasn't been worked and built up, it was a little too tough. We decided just to stick with our garden, and so that's something that you will want to consider. Is it's better for you to start your garden right now. Even if you're not a gardener, get it started right now. Start working that soil and build it up so that when you need to rely on that garden, it's ready to go.
If you're not a gardener and you don't want a garden, this is what you need to do. Pick some kind of a spot in your yard where you would plant a survival garden. And that's where you're going to start dumping all of your leaves and your organic waste and just layer that. And as the years go by, nature will take over and it will make this beautiful fertile soil so that when you do need to use it in an emergency, you have got healthy soil to grow your garden that won't break your back. You can create black gold in compost bins, and this is really important. I'm lazy, I don't like to turn the compost, so we just put it in these bins and let it just break down over a few years. That is Ben standing on top the edge of it, where he's just dumped in one of those bags of leaves that we had used to insulate the carrots over the winter. Our garden is a no-till method, and it took a while to actually set this up. We use a double dig method in our garden. This soil has been worked for years. It's very easy to turn. It's beautiful and full of life. And with the double dig method, the first thing I do is I put some compost just on the top of the row, and then we go down and we just turn it with a shovel, and then we rake it flat. I started the onion seeds using the winter sown method. If you click the card in the corner, it will take you to a post that will explain exactly what that is, but it's a fantastic way of starting your seedlings in the winter and getting a jump on the season. Normally, I would use 1 package of onion seeds in the gallon container, but because seeds are so precious with this process, I divided it between the 2 gallons just to make sure that they had plenty of room to grow nice and strong and healthy.
Our early spring planting included radishes, carrots, cauliflower, spinach, cabbage, lettuce, beets, and peas.
And I use a little trick when I plant the carrots. Carrot seeds can be very difficult to evenly spread out just because they're so tiny, and yet we did not want to waste any seeds or have to spend a lot of time thinning them. So I took some cornmeal and mixed the carrot seeds into the cornmeal, and then I just sprinkled it on top of the dirt. And that seems to do a really good job of spreading them out evenly. And then I just rake them in, because those carrot seeds are like lettuce seeds. They like to be kind of on the top of the soil. There's a method where they use wet carpet on top of those seeds to help carrot seeds germinate, because they are a little bit temperamental. However, I don't have a piece of carpet, but I do have some fabric. And so that's what we put down, is a wet piece of cloth the whole length. And then we use stakes to just hold it in there so that the wind wouldn't blow it away. We created a grow tunnel several years ago where we plant all of our climbers, the cantaloupe, the squash, the beans, anything that climbs up is planted over in this area. We took advantage of the grow tunnel and planted the peas outside of it so that they could just grow right on up the side. We plan to use succession planting. We did not use all of the seeds in the packets when we planted them. And in succession planting, you plant at different intervals to make sure that you stretch that harvest over a longer period of time. The lettuce and spinach and greens get a 7-day interval. The peas will be replanted at 10-day intervals, and the beets at about 14-day intervals. And we'll keep planting until the seeds run out in the packets. I have found many benefits to a no-till garden. The garlic that you see growing down the center of this row was actually planted last spring, and it did not all get harvested at the end of the year. So now I have all these beautiful garlic starts coming up, getting a jump on the season. If you look in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see that we found both potatoes and onions when we were doing the double dig that had been missed. And then, of course, we have those beautiful carrots. Another advantage is that some things, including weeds, readily reseed, but we will have dill, calendula, and borage, which are all great insectary plants, just pop up everywhere, and then I will just move them to wherever I want them to be. And then the other benefit is you just have beautiful, healthy soil that hasn't been really disturbed.
We accepted the challenge to use this can of seeds to create a survival garden. It's going to be fun and interesting to see how this all turns out.
Full disclosure, we will still be growing our regular kitchen garden in addition to the survival garden, because we need to produce lots of food. But we will be tracking all of the vegetables that we were able to produce from this small can of stored seeds.
And we'll be providing updates as the summer goes on.
Yeah.
We invite you to check out the post from which this video was made, Canned Garden Seeds, Peace of Mind or Waste of Money. Check out our YouTube channel, including Prepper Survival Garden and Best Survival Crops. And let's get planting.
This is going to be a great experiment. Gardening is something that takes lots of time and experience to master. Start growing something today.
And now for the question of the day. What experience do you have using seeds that have been packaged for long-term storage? Comment below. And thanks for being part of the solution.